Hey Playas, how you doing? And welcome back to Playas Guide. On this episode of Playas Guide, I'm going to be talking about WiiU collecting, things to look for your collection, upcoming games that are kind of hidden or decent to play, hidden gems, and some of the most rare games for the Wii U that you are going to need for your collection, so keep an eye out for them. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Playas Guide. For the retro gaming news and more collecting videos, please consider subscribing to the channel, but I'll get right into it. You came here to hear about Wii U collecting. So here's a few things you want to be on the lookout for. With the Wii U games, they use a lot of these recycled cases. So something you're really going to want to keep an eye out for is that there's not a puncture in the paper cover of the games, because that can easily happen, as you can see here, and that's going to matter down the road, especially for collecting. So the Wii U is like a Blu-ray disc that's pretty durable, so you really got to kind of abuse these games if you're going to get them all scratched up. So if you're a disc-based collector, you're already looking for scratches on these games. These games are a little bit more durable, so they're going to last a bit longer, I think. They probably won't deteriorate as fast as some of the older disc-based games. So I've chosen out of the disc-based games to collect for this console for that reason. Now, I do want to say that when you're collecting disc-based games, most people are going to want them CIB. So this is why the cover matters so much and it getting torn. One of the other things you want to look for is, and this goes for Wii games too, is that they fade very easily. So you could look here at a side-by-side of two games where one is in better condition than the other because of sun fading. And these games could actually fade just sitting on a shelf if they're in a space where they see constant light. Could be fluorescent lighting even. It doesn't have to be sunlight, but it will fade them. The light will fade these easily. So if you could stack them together where maybe only the spine is exposed and they get limited light, it's going to be beneficial to you long term as a collector and in terms of holding the value for these games. Now, because the Wii U is not that old, it was the last gen console for Nintendo. So that means you might still be able to get your hands on sealed copies of various games, especially overstock. And you'll actually see some of this stuff pop up on eBay. So you're going to want to keep an eye out for those. One of the things for me anyways is I have a bunch of sealed Lego games and I think some of the Just Dance games when going for a complete set, because I know I'm not going to play those games. Same with some of the kids games. So those games in my collection will probably stay sealed, because the thing about collecting for these modern games is it's a smaller collection for the Wii U, but how are you going to find the time to play all of these big games? I know with some of the NES library, a lot of the games are smaller, classic arcade style games that can be, played in short intervals. Not so much on the Wii U. Because these games were mass produced and recently produced, you will see more sealed copies available in different places if you're looking for them. And if the price is right, I would recommend picking them up. However, it is worth noting that the Wii U did not sell very well, at least not in North America. And some of those releases are not as wide or large as some of the releases for other gaming consoles of that time, like the PS3, for example. All right, now let's talk about some of the games that I consider hidden gems or hidden rares, because they're actually quite hard to find, and they may go up in value. So we'll do this alphabetically. Brunswick Bowling on the Wii. I picked up this copy online sealed, and I never see this around in game stores. Darksiders War Mastered Edition was in every GameStop at one time, and I just don't see this game at all anymore. I suspect it will become harder to find. Fast and Furious This is one that you do not see hardly ever. I feel like it's an underrated rare game. How to Train a Dragon 2. I have seen this one from time to time, but it is certainly an uncommon one to come across. And then Kung Fu Panda, same deal there. See it from time to time. Absolutely horrible game, but another one that's a little bit uncommon to come across. Now, the two Monster High games, there's 13 Wishes and New Ghoul in School. I think New Ghoul in School is the one that's the harder to find of the two. There's also NBA 2K13. Many people think that this is a very rare game, and it is uncommon, but I do see it a little more often. Planes Fire Rescue. This is one that's uncommon, but is getting increasingly harder to find. Rapala Fishing, another uncommon game you can add to the list. Runbow. This one was around when it was first released and available, but I do not see it often now. The same can be said for Shantae on the Wii U. Sniper Elite. This one is becoming increasingly hard to find, that Sniper Elite V2. SpongeBob SquarePants. This is another uncommon game. And The Amazing Spider-Man. So that's one that is becoming more and more harder to find. I didn't think it was that rare before, but the price has really gone up on this one. Tekken Tag Tournament. This one was a launch title for the Wii U, but has become more hard to find now. Tumblestone. I never really saw this one around to begin with, and I still don't. Now, some of these games are going to be a bit easier to find online. Wheel of Fortune. I didn't think this one was that hard to come by, but I've been watching that and Jeopardy go up in value. And then we have the disc cleaning kit, which is a rare accessory you don't see. All right, now for the hidden gems. There's a few games here, because it's not a big library, but there's a few here that maybe you haven't heard of that I'm going to mention. So first up, I'd like to tell you guys about Adventure Time Explore the Dungeon, because I don't know. Now, this is a dungeon crawler game where you're going to be collecting items and fighting various enemies. The really cool thing about this is you can have up to 4 people playing this game at once, and that really does make this game a lot more fun to play. Now, you go deeper and deeper into this dungeon, exploring and just fighting different enemies and collecting different items. Gianna Sisters Twisted Dreams. So in this game, this is an action platformer based on a Gianna Sisters game, which some of you may know from way back in the 80s and early 90s. It's the same concept here, except here in this game, you change between the two Gianna Sisters, and as you change to use their different abilities, it affects the environment as well. So you're going to see the environment in this game changing as you change the sisters. Phineas and Ferb Quest for Cool Stuff. So this game is pretty easy, I gotta say, as an adult playing it. But for kids, my son played it and he loved it. He thought it was such a clever and interesting action platformer. And it really is. And the stages do get harder. So even as an adult playing, you may still find parts of it interesting if you can make it through. So here are some of the rarest games on the Wii U to date, but some of those other games that I had mentioned previously as being underrated, you may find them becoming harder to find or more valuable than even some of these games here. So starting off, going through the collection alphabetically, is Axiom Verge for the Wii U, released by Limited Run Games. Now, you may consider this one to be artificially rare because it was manufactured in limited quantities, but it is hard to come by and expensive. Ben 10 2, the Omniverse, another one that you do not see often. I imagine it will go up in value. Book of Unwritten Tales 2. I saw this one towards the end of the Wii U's lifespan. They were clearing it out of every GameStop, and now you can't find it, and it has skyrocketed in value. Big Game Hunter. So this is one that has kind of been considered an uncommon or rare all along, and it is getting harder and harder to find. Then we have the Croods. Still hard to find, but I do see it more often than I used to before, I think because it's such a terrible game. that only collectors would ever want to buy this game. Everybody else is anxious to get rid of theirs. Devil's Third, possibly the rarest game on the Wii U. You can debate that. Had a limited release, maybe one or two per GameStop, if that, as well as a few other places you could have picked it up in the day. Funky Barn, I hardly ever see this one, saw it once, and I picked it up. Game & Wario was a first-party title that had a pretty wide release, but you never see it anymore. Or if you do, it's expensive. Hello Kitty Cruisers, you guys know about that one, was considered the rarest game, and now you're going to find it online no problem. But I do consider it to still be one of the more rare games. Mario and Sonic at the Rio Games 2016. This is another one that you see a little bit more often now, but still a very rare Wii U game to come across. All right, moving on to the next row, we have Shakedown Hawaii. So this is another game by a limited print company. I can't remember who it was. I had to buy it online just to get it to have a complete Wii U collection. You don't have to count these if you don't want to. The Smurfs 2, another game that was considered much more rare than I think it is considered today, because I do see it quite often. Still a hard to find game nonetheless. Steam World Collection. I never see this game. I saw it around in a few stores as a late release in the Wii U's lifespan, and I do not see it now. Tank 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 was released early on, but more and more people want this game, and it's hard to find. Turbo Stunt Racer. This, in my opinion, is the rarest game. The copy I have, I bought online, and I have never seen it in store. Are you working on a Wii U collection? Do you have a complete Wii U collection? How do you think my list of games fares? Please leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of this video, and if you have any helpful pointers for other Wii U collectors that you can share. Until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.